When you see this man, what do you think?
だって君弱いもん。
天上天下唯我独尊領域展開
If you're a guy, probably Aura, overpowered, top 5 coolest new gen characters, steals the show, better than the MC. Or if you're a girl, handsome heartthrob, pretty boy, look at those eyes, male equivalent to Makima. What if I said, you don't understand Gojo? Because in reality, he's one of the most pitiful, lonely, traumatized losers in all of JJK, and I'm not hating. Trust me, Gojo is my 3rd favorite character, but I like him because he's so subversive from what you would expect. Let me break it down. Satoru Gojo was born gifted with both the 6 eyes and the limitless technique, famous to the Gojo clan, one of the 3 great families that holds up Jujutsu society. Given how he basically won the genetic jackpot 10 times over, he was always destined for greatness. His birth literally stirred the curses of the world to get stronger as an adaptation to survive. Criminal organizations put out assassination requests to nip him at the bud before he could become a real problem. Though they all failed. Other than this, we don't get many more details of Gojo's childhood. But with context, there is plenty to work with in seeing how it molded his future personality. As we can see from the Kamo and Zenin families, Jujutsu's great families are terrible places to live. Extremely harsh expectations, abuse, emotional neglect, backstabbing, manipulation. Toxic is the kindest word you could use. So, is it any wonder Gojo would grow to become prideful? After all, he is the blessed one. Is it any wonder he would rely only upon himself and his own overwhelming strength? After all, others would only seek to exploit him. It must have been a lonely childhood. Then pair that with always needing to be on guard from assassins, curses, and competing great families, I find it hard to believe Gojo could trust anyone at all. I find it hard to believe he could care for anyone at all, given that the whole world seemed against him. It is my belief that he only became a Jujutsu sorcerer because that's what he was meant to do, or was most suited for. I don't think there was a hint of altruism, like protecting the weak and innocent. So, he's a loner, and he has no connections who he can trust. He's not very virtuous, because who would have taught him to be like that? He's just a pretty boy blessed with power. But all that would start to change when he met Suguru Geto, a fellow special grade sorcerer. Throughout the Hidden Inventory arc, we see that Gojo has developed into the kind of teen you'd expect given his upbringing. Condescending and arrogant. But we start to see a new side to him. There is now a fellow sorcerer of comparable strength at his side, Geto. Someone that can understand the expectations of strength. Someone that can perhaps understand how he felt. And most importantly, someone that can keep up with him, a peer, an equal, and his first friend. Together, they were stronger, happier, much, much better than the cold world of Jujutsu society. But such a time could not have lasted forever. Through the killer actions of Toji, an irreparable fracture would be carved in between these two, both severely traumatized. The difference being, when Gojo was about to snap and go down the path of killing all non-sorcerers, Geto was there for him, reminding him that there needs to be a purpose, and protecting the weak is that purpose. But sadly, when Geto needed those same words reaffirmed to him, Gojo wasn't able to be there. This resulted in the loss of his best friend, even having to kill him with his own hand. After the events of Hidden Inventory, Gojo had very surprisingly became a teacher. This should come as a surprise given his characterization thus far. Gojo is a self-absorbed, cocky, and lacking in care for others, not to mention a globally important figure. Yet, he has chosen the path of sacrifice, of investing not into himself, but of future generations, an intrinsically altruistic job. What can we gather from this? In my opinion, through Geto and Amani, Gojo learned what fellowship and love were for the first time. Having people to laugh, smile, tease, and play with. People you can trust wholeheartedly. Something he had never known. Through them and their kindness, I believe Gojo realized that camaraderie was far superior than the self-centered cold world of Jujutsu society. But he also learned another lesson due to Toji. It doesn't matter if you love someone, if you can't protect them. Gojo's weakness and inexperience cost Amani her life, and nearly Geto's in his own. This deeply traumatized Gojo, evidenced by the fact that he destroyed the two extremely valuable curse tools that could circumvent his limitless technique, the inverted spear of heaven and the black rope. The fact he trained to be able to keep limitless on 24/7 so that he will never be caught off guard again. I believe Gojo, in part, became a teacher because 1. He wanted the future of the Jujutsu world to be based on a new foundation of love. And 2. He needed to raise sorcerers who were strong enough to make it happen and protect it. One stronger than even him. But I believe there's one more reason, though this one is more just a feeling. I believe Gojo, in part, blames himself for not seeing Geto's deteriorating mental state. That he wasn't there for his best friend when he needed it the most. And I don't believe he blamed the man who saved him from the brink of his sanity for even a second. The only reason he finished him off was because it was his duty, and perhaps even a mercy. Geto even said he wished Gojo would at least curse him at the end, which means he didn't. I think Gojo desires for this to never be repeated. So he became a teacher to carefully watch over the next generation, so that he'll be there this time if any one of them should stumble. So to recap, Gojo used to be lonely and self-absorbed, but through the fellowship of Geto and others, he learned how to love. But that love was irreparably damaged by Toji. Despite having all that strength, Gojo failed to protect his friends and almost died, causing a deep-seated trauma. But through this experience, he learned that he needed to focus on others. So he invested in the next generation, trying the best he could to direct them towards a brighter future. But again, when not just his students, but the world needed him the most, he got sealed. The consequences of the sealing of Gojo are incomparable to any other moment in the series. He was the strongest, the greatest shield and sword against evil. Yet, when that evil struck, The love he learned was used against him, if only for a moment. And he failed, sealed. And because of that, Nanami, Naobito, and Nobara were killed. Yuji, Maki, Megumi, and Yumaki, and Todo were seriously injured, the latter two losing arms. Sukuna was released and thousands were killed. Kenjaku was able to start the Culling Games and released millions of cursed spirits, which would lead to countless tragedies and deaths. Principal Yaga would be executed, and Yuji resentenced to execution. All this because Gojo let himself be sealed. Even if you love him to death, you must admit that this was an unacceptable failure. Yet again, even with all of that strength, he failed when he was needed the most. And now for perhaps the greatest fight in Shonen. What happened after Gojo was unsealed? The strongest sorcerer in history versus the strongest sorcerer of today. Now this is the most important moment of Gojo's life. On all levels, personal, thematic, plot, everything is riding on him succeeding here. If he wins, every past failure can be easily forgiven. For this is a battle that will decide the fate of the world. It's what he was born to do. And so he puts on a show. This fight is jaw-dropping. The suspense, the twists and turns, the complete usage and mastery of every bit of the power system, the creativity and back and forth. Sukuna is unbelievably strong, crafty, and imposing. But Gojo seems unstoppable, an almost divine force. Sukuna is put on the line, one fatal strike away from death. The 1,000-year-old King of Curses had lost. Gojo did it. He won. And then the panel that broke the collective hearts of thousands. Satoru Gojo lost, cleaved in half. Failure. I ask you, in all of JJK, is there ironically a bigger failure than Gojo? To whom much is given, much is required. He failed to protect Amani. Geto got sealed, resulting in untold deaths, including his own student Nobara and close friend Nanami. Then, when faced with the moment he was born for, the threat of 1,000 years, he failed to win again. Loss after loss after loss. And that's what I don't think people realize. Gojo is a tragic, pitiful character who failed at every turn. He was a broken and traumatized man. Yes, he seemed larger than life, but in reality, he was sad and lonely. But, and this is important, but he's not just a tragic failure. Because remember what he learned from Geto? Although he himself amounted to nothing, those he invested in, taught, and loved, those are his shining victory. Those will be his true legacy. Like I said in my Yuta video, Gojo was the torchbearer to bring a new light to the dark world he was raised in. But, like Moses, he was not destined to see that promised land himself. Like the saying goes, society grows great when old men plant trees in whose shade they will never sit in. How fitting. Gojo, someone who was taught to rely only on himself. Only his strength mattered. His own limitless void keeping others away, literally, would overcome all of that trauma, all of that upbringing, and be vulnerable to entrust the future to others, to choose love over selfishness. That's who Gojo Satoru is. He is our sensei. But tell me what you think in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. It means a ton to me to have your support.